So my name is Harry Jean Baptiste. I'm 32 years old. I'm a realtor.
Okay, and that's in the Houston area.
Yes. Yeah, Houston. I mean, I work all over Texas, but mainly Houston.
Gotcha. All right, so from the beginning, kind of paint the full picture and everything. Where'd you grow up? Like in Houston or?
So I actually know I'm like most, Houstonites. I didn't grow up in Houston. I didn't grow up in Texas. I grew up in technically Boston, Massachusetts. If I were to
Okay,
say the hometown, you probably don't know I'm from Brockton originally.
gotcha. Okay, yeah, I did customer service for an electricity company out there, so I know a little bit about the Massachusetts area.
Nice.
So how'd you
Yes.
end up out here?
So yeah, like you said, paint the picture. So I originally moved to Texas about 14 years ago.
Okay.
My older sister was in the Air Force. I went to school in San Antonio, and then I lived
Yes,
in San
sir.
Antonio
That was
for
UTSA
about
you went
what
to?
like most people is like, hey, didn't finish there, but I ended up graduating from SAC, San Antonio College.
Gotcha. Okay, and you're
Got my
like in the beginning, kind of like just kind of start with like childhood and everything. Did you grow up in like a
oh, okay.
two-parent household, or living with grandparents, or kind of what was the living situation?
Sure, yeah. So I mean, my childhood, I did have a two-parent household. I mean, it wasn't necessarily born out of wedlock. My parents got married when I was about like what 10, but
Gotcha.
predominantly two-parent household.
Okay, what'd your parents do?
So where my parents from? Or what
No,
did they
no, what
do?
they do for work and everything when you were younger?
Oh, so my dad was a bus driver. My mom's a nurse, actually still bus driver nurse to this day. So,
Okay, any siblings or anything?
oh yeah, I have seven siblings.
Okay. Where are you in the pack? Like older?
Second to last.
Okay, almost a baby. All right.
Yeah, the
Okay,
youngest
and
boy.
are you African? Like, were you born? Are your parents from Africa?
This is a great question, though. Not African, but my parents were from here.
Okay, Haitian.
Yes.
Okay, so like, was it more like the average immigrant story? Like they wanted you to go for like, to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that?
The beginning, when I was younger, but as I proved myself as an entrepreneur, it's like, hey, I'm bad at this. So at
Yeah,
first, I don't know about that. But then after things went on, they're like, oh, they became my biggest fans. And they're still my biggest fans to this day.
gotcha, definitely. Okay, and then so kind of like paint the picture, like what were you like as like a little kid, maybe up to like middle school, like a quiet kid, extroverted, outgoing, who'd you hang out
Um,
with, kind of stuff.
and I was super extroverted, I went to a private school up there and I didn't necessarily fit the mold. I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't beating up people, but I just like to talk about it. I love to talk to
Just
everybody.
saying, just getting in trouble talking over the teacher and stuff.
Not even so much the teacher, just like, I got my little crew right here. We talking in class. You're not even talking. We're doing homework. It's funny because today you have to collaborate, right?
Yeah,
And the school system does nothing to foster that for you. And then they're like, no, you got to be quiet and you got to listen to people. So,
yeah, very structured.
yes, a lot of summer school for me. I did summer school almost every
Okay.
year, fifth grade.
So did you have like bad grades, or was it more just like getting kicked out, or like?
Bad grades too, but no, I hate to play the race card, but it was like my first and second grade teacher was very racist. It was just to kind of give you a little, like I said, paint the picture. So
uh,
my parents had put me in a private school. It was predominantly Haitians that attended it, but it was white people that ran it.
in
And
Massachusetts,
yes, yeah, in
right?
Brockton. And yeah, the first and second grade were like disaster years because there's like maybe one Haitian kid, one kid of color that would actually not have to go to summer school. So that's the things we had to encounter. And, them coming from Haiti, there's like, hey, I worked hard. I put you in this nice
Right.
private school, safe. Come to find out, we were dealing with racist teachers and all that good stuff.
Right. You paying your money to send your kid there to get treated like that.
Yeah, like it's like it's.
So all right, so moving to like high school and stuff, like were you still extroverted and stuff? Were you still getting in trouble, or like you kind of getting in sports or anything?
So no, to kind of I guess link the elementary to high school. So elementary, I had very chronic asthma,
Okay.
so there was no running for me. It did like disappear when I was 13.
Gotcha.
I guess going from middle school to high school, I was still as extroverted, but there wasn't as many people to talk with. The school population dwindled. I did end up going to public school in high school, and my grades improved. I actually went from being the dumbest in the class to, I wouldn't say the smartest, but
Definitely
because
improved.
I'm big time, big time.
Gotcha. So at that point,
I
did you,
guess I
would you say you got it?
know, go ahead. I was just saying, and then to give the context of the high school too. So the public school, inner city school, 4,000 kids in the high school, ended up becoming my graduating class had a graduating number 145.
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So at that point, did you have like a plan for like what you wanted to do after high school, or was it kind of like just go to college and figure it out?
Yeah, I was like, hey, I'm gonna become an engineer. I mean, the love for real estate was when I was in middle school. We went down to Georgia one vacation. I was like, oh wow, there's nice houses. Growing up in Boston, you live in a shack, pretty much. You can
Right.
have a shack.
Like New York type of vibe.
Yeah, not as bad, but almost close. Going to Georgia, you finally see like brick houses, subdivisions. And my cousin living down there. He was not a realtor. He's trying to, get his life together, whatever. But the guy knew where all the new construction was, and he just took us on a little trip. And I was like, man, this would be cool to do.
So
But
back then, like at that age, it actually was a seed in your mind, like about doing real estate, or was it more just like, man, I want to live in a nice house one day?
no, the seed, yeah, it wasn't even so much the living in there. It was just like, yeah, this would be cool. We get to talk to people, look at nice houses, eat cookies. This is pre '08, so before the
Gotcha.
crash, right? It
Yeah,
was easy back then.
definitely. Gotcha. So throughout that time, like from when you first had that experience to like going through high school and everything, were you always kind of thinking about real estate, or was it something that you like had an idea about it and then kind of let it go and came back to it?
It faded, definitely because at the time, this is pre-social media,
Mhm.
fancy cars, especially us as people of color. I didn't see anyone who looked like me who did. I mean, I would see realtors that were black in Massachusetts or Haitian, but they were not model realtors or horrible. They did it part time. It just was
Gotcha.
like, why would I want to do that? That's not a career. And people like, you don't do that. That's not a job.
Gotcha. So like going like when you graduated and stuff, the plan was like to be an engineer, and that was like, pretty much all you were thinking about at the time.
Yeah, that was a little seed planted in my head from my dad. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to become an engineer. Come to find out when I got to college, it's harder than you think, right?
Right,
So
the math
then
classes and stuff.
wasn't so much the math. Math was easy for me. It was actually the science that threw me for a loop.
Gotcha. Okay, so how like being in college and stuff, like how'd you kind of get back to the real estate thing, or like what was the transition from like college to actually, finding the real estate thing again?
Well, the thing was, I kind of just was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get into business. Well, first, to be honest, I was like, let me go become an accountant because it was so dumb, typical like little kid thinking because I met this cute girl, she was an accountant. I was like, that's
Okay.
way easier than being an engineer. And I was like, I'm good at math.
Definitely,
And
definitely.
that was the original plan. As I was, yeah, I'll just become an accountant. It's like she can do it. We talked on and off. It never materialized in anything serious, but
Gotcha.
she let me use her books to actually go to class. So I was like, yeah, I'll just become an accountant.
Gotcha. So
And then I never.
how did that turn into real estate?
So what ended up happening? Graduated from SAC. I was gonna go to a 4-year college. I was gonna go to Texas A&M. Took one course in accounting there. Is like, I'm not gonna do this. Who am I kidding? And then from there, because I had an associate's degree, got a comfy job at Allstate. Paid me $16.50. I was like,
Were
yeah, I can do
you
that.
were an insurance agent?
Yeah, I was an insurance agent. I worked from a call
Okay.
center. I was licensed all 50 states.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely I had my insurance license for about 2.5 years. I just finished doing it. I'm getting into marketing now. But yeah,
On that.
for me it was more just like a friends and family kind of thing. I sold a little bit of stuff through like cold calling and stuff like that. But for me it wasn't consistent enough. So I definitely started pivoting, looking for something more like, more in demand, I felt like at the time.
Oh, nice, nice.
The
Yeah, it was. It's tough, yeah, because you're working for like what, Goosehead or something.
it was I can't remember the company I was working for, but we wrote for like AIG and Americo, a few of those like that, Mutual Omaha.
Oh, okay, like life insurance.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did property and casualty. So I did like
gotcha.
home, auto, motorcycle.
Okay, that stuff is more consistent than the life insurance side, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was getting leads. It was great when I first started. Amazing company. That's I never. Real estate was not in my head. It
Yeah.
was until about like 6 months. Things started going south. My calls were trash. They put me like on probation. So I was
Was it
like, you know
like
what? Maybe it's not
at
bad.
that time, was it like bad leads or was it, what was it that started making it,
Leads were horrible. They weren't scrubbing them properly like they used to. And we just Allstate wasn't competitive in Texas, and
Okay,
that's all the calls we were getting were Texas calls.
gotcha. Okay, so from there, kind of, keep painting the story as far as like how you got into real estate from there. Like what was like the next thing after that?
So pretty much, I'm not getting any calls. I went from taking 20 calls a day to one call a day.
Okay.
And so when you don't have nothing to do, you start thinking. So I went to go listen to a podcast. This was 2015, 2016. So
Yeah,
really
definitely.
trash. Horrible. They were horrible back then. But I got enough to where this one guy said, well, go buy the millionaire. If you want to be a realtor, go buy the millionaire real estate agent book, or what we call in the industry the MREA. I went to go buy it. It was like, what, 300 pages. I used to have that. I lost it. I used to have my original one. I wish I still kept it.
Do you remember who it
And
was
that's what
that
I
wrote
do
that?
by Gary Keller.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I heard him
Gary
before.
Keller's he's, if you don't know, he's the one who started Keller Williams,
Gotcha.
KW. So, read MREA, finished that in a week. It was like 200 pages, very dry. Like, ain't nothing interesting in that book.
Kind of
Just
just the
tells you how
basics.
people, yeah, basics, how many leads to the convert and stuff like that. And I read it. And then I remember my brother-in-law, who became a realtor eons ago back in '07, was like, if you're gonna become a realtor, join KW. And I kind of moved a little too quick. But what I ended up doing, I took a tax return, went to go to real estate school. It was $1,000. I got about 1,500, so I used the G of that to go to real estate school. I did try. I did try to get my real estate license a year or two before that, but I did it online and I could never finish it. So I was like, you know what, maybe I just need to go to school. Once again, 2013, these online schools were trash. It was garbage.
Okay, when was the first time you kind of tried the real estate thing, the school going, getting licensed and everything?
2013, I saw Groupon for $99. I bought it and I did like 2 or 3 courses. I was like, this is dumb. But that was at the same time I was still full time in school.
Gotcha.
So it just was like, I can't do this.
Definitely just a time thing.
Yeah, the time, and then back then the modules for online schools were trash, to where it was like you had to be very focused and I'll just get distracted
Yeah,
easily.
on top of all your school stuff.
Right. So I was like, let me throw that in trash. And I tried it again 5 months later, bought another online course for $100, can do it. And I was like, you know what? I just gotta have to go to champ. That's where back then that's where everyone went to pass was Champions Real Estate School.
Gotcha. So how long did it take from like the second time from like when you started doing it, the course and everything to actually getting your license?
Well, it took me, let me see, about 5 months.
Okay. And that's like doing it full time or like how much time are you spending on that?
This time I was devoted, but I actually almost, because I started at a weird time. If you're really focused, anyone who's listening, you want to become an agent, you could get it done in a month. There's no reason it should take you 5 months. But I guess the time I had started was like weird. I took the classes backwards. And then what ended up happening, I was like literally this close to not even finishing, this close.
All right, set up.
Well, because I had to take one more class, and then I was in between. You know what? Maybe I should go back to school and get my bachelor's degree and leave the real estate thing behind. Literally, I did
Dude,
4 courses.
I feel like that's the thing too, like especially in business where like the closer you get to like completing stuff to start feeling like, is there something else that I could do that might be easier? Like this is taking so long. Is there something else that could be a little quicker? But definitely, I feel like, entrepreneurs go through that.
Yeah, and I was like, because to be honest, I'm the first entrepreneur in my family. No one, I mean, I have a lawyer who's a brother, I have a nurse practitioner who's a sister. So there's a lot of professionals, but I was the genius that stepped out to become
Gotcha.
a realtor, to become an entrepreneur.
Gotcha. So was the like the class and everything, was that the only like investment or like initial cost up front that you had to like pay to get started, or like what else did you kind of spend money on to like, learn and kind of get started before you started selling and everything?
That was it. Well, to get licensed, that's really it. Now, just to kind of give you the overview, you get licensed, and there's a lot of fees you have to pay. You can get the license, that's great. Now you gotta go sit at a brokerage. After you before you can even go to a brokerage, you gotta pay your local board of realtors, and you gotta pay to use the system, the multiple listing service. So you spend
Gotcha.
$1,000 on school. The licensing in of itself was like 300, and then the MLS fees was like another 750.
Gotcha. Okay, and
I
then
was
like
like,
in the beginning, what was like the first initial stuff you did to kind of get your name out there, land your first clients or sales and stuff?
man, that's a great question. So even when I got my license, I still was working full time, so I could only do a part time. So my thing was like, because I was like, I'm gonna sell a house, and then after I sell a house, I'm gonna go full time. That didn't happen.
Gotcha.
So what I used to do, because I couldn't cold call, so I went to KW, Keller Williams City View in San Antonio. That's where I started.
Okay.
And the coach there was super old school, but you gotta remember this was 2017.
Gotcha.
So
No social media, Facebook ads, or nothing like that at the time.
Facebook was at its beginning, and actually that's what I used to. I didn't do ads, but I used to use Marketplace, and it
Gotcha.
was working, but I didn't know how to convert these people.
Gotcha.
So what I would do, I would take pictures off of MLS, put them on Facebook Marketplace, because no one was advertising houses on Facebook at the time at all. This was like, no. I would do that, say, hey, this house is selling for 150. You want to see it, hit me up, call me. They call me. I didn't know how to convert them, because the thing they'll teach you in real estate school, well, not even real estate school, they don't teach you nothing. They just teach you how to pass the test. That's it. They're not going to teach you any skills.
Right.
So in training, to like never show someone who's not qualified, never do this, never do that. So I took all those like old guard rules and apply them to these calls, and it'd be like a train wreck, super train wreck. So yeah, I was getting leads, but I didn't know how to convert them at all.
So the Facebook Marketplace, was that, because I'm not familiar with Facebook super, but was it like groups that you were jumping in, or is it like like how TikTok has like the shop thing now?
Yeah, well, I guess it's hard to explain to kind of put in today's context. So what it is, I don't know if you know Craigslist, right?
Okay, so
You know,
similar to
yeah,
Craigslist, kind of just listing stuff you have.
yeah, you list it in there, and then you can share it to other groups. And I still do it today. I still do that type of marketing. I know how to convert a lot better than I did back then. But
Gotcha.
yeah, pretty much it's just Craigslist for Facebook, and then people, because they would never see it. No one was sharing houses on Facebook. I don't even know how I came up with the idea. I was like, hey, I can't cold call, I can't do anything. Let me just put houses on Facebook Marketplace, and I'd get like 10 calls a day, but I didn't know what I was doing.
So before you get into like actually closing deals and stuff, like is that something like, would you say there's a way to do that tactic now today in this time?
Oh yeah, yeah. Now I know how to. I guess we want to make this podcast spicy and to give some people some value.
Definitely.
It's gonna sound a little controversial, but yeah, I will show someone who's not qualified. The biggest thing whenever you're dealing with converting cold leads, you want to turn them warm. This is just my school thought. This is super unconventional. People might listen to us like,
Give
man,
it
that
to
guy's
me.
an idiot talking about. But go meet the person at the house. You're not doing anything anyway. If you're a brand new agent, your friends and family probably don't trust you. These are things I learned, because they think you're a dummy. They think, yeah, you don't know nothing.
He just trying this.
Yeah, I got my own sister that has bought and sold houses 2, 3 times and hasn't used me. I used to take a person,
Gotcha.
and I don't. really, that's the best thing you can do because at a minimum, now I'm not one for Sphere and database, which those are great as well. I have a little different school of thought is like, hey, someone has took the time to be like, hey, I want to see this house. Yes, they haven't come the traditional way where they're qualified or whatever, but you're the real estate professional. You can guide them to do that. So I'll meet you at 123 Main Street. Okay, great, cool. And then while we're walking it, what do you think? How long you've been looking? What's your lease? And I'm just start pre-qualifying them there. Then ask them, hey, how's your credit? They say, I
Well,
think it's a
how are you
620.
actually getting like how are you actually converting those leads to actually getting them to show up? Like, did you? Because obviously, when
Oh,
you
they
first
want
start
to.
cold calling, what was that?
They want. They want to. That's so. I don't cold call. I used to back in the day, right? I used to do all the
Okay,
old school stuff on Fizbos. Oh, first sale by owners, expireds, etc. I used to do all that stuff.
gotcha.
It was somewhat decent.
Okay.
Facebook Marketplace is, and I was in San Antonio for a couple of months back before came back to Houston. I did a pilot test on rentals, on rental houses, and what we did, we would post rental listings on Facebook,
Mhm.
and I was getting like what 50 messages a day. People want to see a rental house.
Okay, so doing that, there you literally it was just all incoming leads, and you just kind of scheduling stuff out.
Yeah, and then literally I
Gotcha.
just text the magic line. When do you want to see the house? And then they'll start dequalifying them themselves. They're like, hey, do you work with someone with evictions? Do you work with someone broken leases and stuff like that?
Gotcha. So today you would say like, because like you were saying, like most people probably wouldn't want to spend the time to go meet with people that aren't
Yeah.
qualified. Like, so why do you do it that way? And then kind of like what advantages or disadvantages do you think that way has versus what other people are kind of doing?
Okay. Yeah. The reason why I chose that, if you want to survive in real estate, especially in this today's market, you have to be different. I get where success is, there's clues, but in order to be a disruptor, you have to find what other people aren't doing. And that's where you find the hidden market. Because okay, I mean, you go on Instagram, everyone's saying, hey, how to buy a first time house. There's millions of people doing that, but who's talking about rentals? Who's talking about things like that? So I didn't always know that, but I've learned that in order to succeed in any market shift or anything, you have to be different. Now, the great thing, you find an untapped market, but one of the disadvantages, you literally have to babysit these people. These people, um, they need a lot of help. A lot of times they've rented houses from people just like, hey man, hey Tyree, let me rent your house. I'll give you the deposit and not sign a lease. And they're used to just doing stuff back then, and you have to teach them a lot of stuff, and they're not the most, how can I say, they're not the most sophisticated, but there's a quote that says you get rich by feeding the poor. And
Gotcha.
especially being a person of color, I can relate to that, to where it's like, okay, you don't pass the mold that you typically can find. So you shouldn't just be disregarded from society. So that's the way I see it that way.
Gotcha. So a lot of what you do is kind of like taking anybody that comes in and kind of educating along the way from wherever they are to like, you know, you could maybe get it in 6 months or maybe in a few months, kind of thing.
Right. And, I listen to my client because I'll be honest, today it is home market stuff, right? A lot of people are priced out, and actually in the short term, as we're recording this in mid-March 2024, the average price of a rental home in Houston is still cheaper than getting a mortgage in most cases. So
Gotcha.
these people are literally like, hey, I work my blue collar job, but you'd be surprised. You meet doctors, you meet all sorts of people that use Facebook Marketplace. So it's not just a set thing. And they're like, hey, I just want to rent. That's all I can afford. I can afford 1,800. I saw this nice house. How can you help me get into this house? And that's what I do, and just help them get in there, because a lot of them, they're not used to using a realtor to go find a rental house. It's just like, hey, Randy, Larry landlord is renting out his house, and I'll just go give him a deposit with no lease. And I've had to, like, you got to hold the hand. I remember there was one She got the lease. The landlord wanted it as a cash app. She didn't want to send the cash app. It's like, hey, you need to sign the lease first. Like, never give anyone any money unless you sign a lease, because that's your legal protection in case something
Right.
happens. So,
Gotcha. Okay, so tell me kind of like the initial like first sale you made outside of, or maybe start with, if you had a family or friend, person you started with, and then the first outside of your immediate circle that you kind of, first sale you made.
well, actually, to be honest with you, my first sale was not in my circle because everyone in my circle was like, yeah, that guy's an idiot. He just got his license. I don't trust him. So my first sale was actually thanks to my real estate coach at Keller Williams City View. And he was like, I don't want to work with this buyer. There's this person who needs help. You want to take it? It's like, yeah, sure. So me being green, dumb, I got a referral from an agent in Houston, right? She's like, I want a 50% referral. I was like, okay.
Just go with it.
Like, okay. Yeah, that's outrageous. That's
Right.
for a referral fee. I was like, okay. I made like maybe what, $1,800 on that first deal.
And well, while you on that real quick, like for people listening, like what would be a good referral fee as far as like doing that?
Okay, so just in case the board of realtors is listening, so we don't have any set fees for anything, commissions or whatever.
Gotcha.
On average, 25% to 30% would be a reasonable amount. 50% is a little excessive.
Even for somebody like new, fresh, just got their license.
I wouldn't request a 50% referral fee. At that point, you work for me, like you're on my team, and if I'm paying
Gotcha.
you 50%, you bet. She was, but you could definitely tell there was this like, hey, this guy's hungry. He hasn't sold it.
He'll take
When
it.
he'll take it.
Uh,
I got my first deal my second month, my first.
so first month,
And
like fully working, you made a sale from that referral.
yeah, yeah. He was hot and ready to go. He was moving from Houston. He worked for a big company. He had money too. Like he was really well to do. He, he was paying all sorts of things he didn't need to pay for because
Gotcha.
his advisor from Houston was like, "Oh, you got paid for this, that, and the other." Well, he was a really nice guy. Really nice, really
Gotcha.
nice couple. Wife was pregnant at the time.
Gotcha. Okay, so what were like the next maybe two or three sales you made? Kind of how'd you get those? Was it referrals also?
Yeah, well, after that, like a lot, it was like, "Oh, this idiot can actually close houses, so maybe I can trust him." So it was a second deal was a friend that I hadn't talked to in years, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to get approved," and he actually divorced his wife, but then he ended up getting back with his wife to buy a house, and that was just a story because the house.
Complicated.
Oh, it's very complicated. The house we ended up getting was like we had lost in a multiple offer situation. So just to paint the picture, 2017 in San Antonio, we're having like we had a housing shortage back then for Little Blip. And so there was multiple offers, every house you were getting, multiple offer, multiple. It was crazy. It was almost kind of like 2020. And
Gotcha.
then something had happened. I don't know, to be honest with you. It just the multiple offers just disappeared. But it was at one point like in San Antonio, like there are just not enough houses and people were just fighting over everything.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I was supposed to ask this too. I forgot when you were saying it. How much did you make off the first sale you made?
I made about $1,900.
Okay, for like maybe how many hours or weeks of work would you say?
Oh, it was a lot of work. It was multiple offer situations. I had to say that was easily probably took me. I met them. I think it took me like a month to get them under contract, and then for it to close. And then I remember that deal especially because we had a appraisal issue, right? So we offered over what the house was valued at. It was
Gotcha.
not nothing crazy. It was $3,000, three G's. The
Gotcha.
flipper was like, "No, I'm not coming down." Blah blah blah. And one, since we're gonna have a coaching moment, to be honest, when you get that close to a deal, the seller wants to sell. So usually 9 times out of 10, they'll lower the price. He made this big old like theatrical scene, drug it out for 5 days, and didn't need to be drug
Gotcha.
out. And day 5 is like, oh, lower the price.
Just just doing what customers do, I guess.
I'm like, you're gonna really forfeit $3,000, and then you're gonna lose the 150,000 you're gonna make on this house. But back then, I didn't know. I went to my office manager, this old guy. He's like, oh, it's like it is what it is. If it falls apart, it falls apart. And I'm like, this is my first deal. This is my bread and butter. I'm running around the office like a chicken with no head on. This guy's like, man, oh man, like you over here. See, back then there was no sensitivity in real estate. Everything was like it was rough back in 2017. Today you gotta be all like you gotta coddle your agents. It's like I love you. No, back then it was like, man up. It's like you lose it, you lose it. That's okay.
Got you.
You'll be okay.
Real
You'll be
like sales environment.
yeah, he was just really old school and just was like, I don't care. It's like you just need to tell him this. It is what it is.
Gotcha. And you do real estate full time now, or is it still part time?
Full time.
Gotcha. Congrats on that, man. So how are you like, how you doing in business now? And like, if you could kind of motivate somebody listening that might be kind of starting out, maybe like a good month you've had in the last year or so.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. Right now is not for the week. I actually was having this conversation the other day with someone who was like, I think I want to get in there. I want to get in part time. Last year, yeah, there was 1 month I sold 5 houses. I made 20,000 in 1 month, but that doesn't happen every month, especially today. To be honest, now it depends where you're listening to me. Now, if you're in Houston, I strongly recommend anyone tap into the rentals. You'll make half of first month's rent. Once this cycle pivots, and the biggest problem when we're having the cycle, one, we have higher interest rates. Two, we have all the boomers that are getting rid of their inventory. Once that inventory comes into the mainstream, which I think we're probably going to take like 3-4 years, rents are not going to be cheaper than mortgages forever. But while it is, you have to adjust to the market. So right now, you want to sharpen your skills as a rental agent. You want to know what's the qualifications again to rental, how to help your rental challenge clients, because eventually, hopefully, you can convert renters to buyers about what? It's about 40%. If you put them in the rental, they'll come back to you and buy a house. So that's what I'd recommend. It's not easy because not to get political, but Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed chair, he is strict about curbing inflation. So we're in election year. Typically, we'd have lower interest rates. We haven't had them yet. Now, once they go lower, we're going to get back to multiple offer situations. So find your niche, whatever that is, whether that be rental houses, luxury houses. Find what makes you different and you can succeed. I mean, it doesn't matter what market it is. And I'm not trying to be like airy fairy and, you know, sugarcoat stuff, but yeah, just
Right.
find whatever you like to do. Do what you like to do. Like, if you don't like to list houses, don't be a list agent. If you don't like to show house, don't be a buyer's agent. There's multiple avenues to where you can make money in real estate. You don't have to copy everyone.
Gotcha. So
Be
you say right now the renters niche would probably be better with the market and everything.
It's hot. Yeah, it's very hot because if we're in a high inflationary market, everyone still needs a place to sleep, right? If you're either gonna buy, you're gonna rent, or you're gonna live with family. So not
Gotcha.
everyone can buy, not everyone can live with family. So and you just now they're a little bit more. They need a lot of attention, but you're still gonna make some decent money if you do 4 or 5 rentals in a week. The average rental in Houston's $2,000. 1 times 5 is 5,000. You just make 5,000 a week. It's more than you do, more than most people make in their regular job. And renters are,
Makes sense. And also,
you know,
also on that though, would you consider like the renters niche more like recession proof since it's like, whatever the market does, people always still need to rent. Would you kind of say it's like a recession proof thing?
yeah. The only year where we had a regress in rentals was 2020 because 2020 was the year where we had the highest conversion of renters to buyers, just because
Gotcha.
it was just so cheap to buy a house. It was like, why not?
Gotcha. Okay, and then like, so
Yeah.
you gave me like a good month. Give me like kind of like the work-life balance of like from the time you kind of, from when you made your first sale to kind of transitioning into full time, doing it pretty consistently?
I was full time. Oh, so actually, yeah, we didn't talk about that. So when I made my first sale, I was full time. Coach
Okay.
at the time was like, and I wish I didn't listen to him because I could have done so much more, but just getting in the mood. And the biggest thing to go find a good mentor, like someone has your best interest. I mean, yeah, I became a decent agent, but you know, and I hate it always comes back to race and color and things like that. Go find not someone who just looks like you. Make sure they know what they're doing because we have a lot of people. Like one guy says, there's people doing business and people doing business. So make sure you're actually learning your craft.
Gotcha.
But someone has your best interest too. So yeah, I ran in full time because I was like, man, I'm making no sales part time. I can't keep, half-assing it, excuse me from cussing over here, but okay. So,
Yeah, you
I
good.
didn't want to keep half. So I like, man, I'm gonna go in full time, quit my job, didn't even give a 2 weeks notice. Was living with my parents, thank God. And I just went in ham. I was like, I'm gonna do whatever if it's open house. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to succeed. And I was just doing a lot of things with no like thought or rhyme or reason. And
Gotcha.
then, I had to thank my coach because he gave me my first deal. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just give you this deal. And then from there, that's when the floodgates open.
Gotcha. Okay, so if you had to start from scratch, maybe like, let's say you're 25, 30, 35, you just decided to get your license, you just got it, you ready to start, putting yourself out there, marketing yourself and everything. If you had to start from scratch and build back up within 2 years, like knowing everything you know now, what core things would you focus on? Like, to kind of shorten the time frame, make stuff a little easier.
That's a great question. Yeah, if I were to start it today, March 2024, knowing what I know now, yeah, I probably back with the Facebook Marketplace ads. I probably just met people at the house. I was like, okay, we want to go look at it, and it's just a lot of averages. It's like, hey, if I meet 10 people at the house, I know one's gonna turn into sale. I ain't got no money right now anyway, so at least I can make one sale or get one rental. So that's what I would have done. And if I think if I knew that back then, could have been retired by now because all the people was hitting me up from Facebook Marketplace. But because I was just stuck in that old thinking, I'd just be like, yeah, if I just start today, Facebook Marketplace, some rentals, just be like, okay, you want to see it at 10? I'll meet you at 10. And just keep meeting people to see you
No
close, you get
doubt.
at least.
Gotcha. Okay, so something else I kind of want to ask too, just like, because a lot of times people will be in jobs that they make good money, but they aren't, necessarily loving the job or kind of looking forward to the weekend and stuff. Would you say you
Mhm.
enjoy what you do, or is it more like kind of just get it done so you can, get to the weekend?
Well, that's great. There's no weekend when you're in real estate. It does not exist. That's our prime time. Because remember, we work when people are most likely off. Most people work Monday through
Gotcha.
Friday. So actually, right now, I'm working with a client that the fiance said, "Yeah, I'm gonna be free Saturday, but we need to make sure the guy is free." So now I have to put everything on pause. So there's no beach. There's nothing. Now you can plan, and as you grow in the industry, you can get showing agents and stuff like that. But when you first start, there's no weekend. You're lucky maybe if you get Tuesday off because no one's
Gotcha.
necessarily gonna look at it on Tuesday.
But you say
Um,
you say
yeah,
you enjoy what you do though.
oh yeah, yeah. I couldn't see myself doing anything, even when times are rough. And I've looked for jobs. I can't get one anyway since I haven't worked a W-2 in ages. I really love what I do. I mean, especially just helping. How can I put this? Just because fair housing and all this stuff, but definitely helping our community. I'll put it like that, giving them good services because that's the reason why I got into it. One of the reasons why I got into it as well because especially me being the Haitian realtor, growing up with them, they weren't competent. They would do dumb things and know what they're doing. And think about it: if you own a house, this is where the majority of your nest egg is in. Or if you're going to
Agreed.
buy one as a first, you're buying a six-figure asset. So you should be competent in what you do,
Definitely.
and especially there's some stories I've heard, man, of people that look like us not treating their fellow brothers good. So I try never to be in that situation. I'm not perfect, but there's just certain protocols that you have to follow. So that's one thing that keeps you pushing when the deals are gonna fall apart. They're gonna fall apart. You're gonna think, oh, I'm gonna make $40,000 this month, and then all of a sudden you're lucky if you make $400. So they just disappear like that.
Okay, so yeah, definitely I appreciate that. And on the as far as like educating and stuff, like do you do any sort of like YouTube stuff or any like social media content sort of educating people?
Not yet, not YouTube yet, because I want to make sure I have the right setup. But if anyone's
Gotcha.
listening, come follow me. Follow me at my Instagram, where you found me, Harry the House Hunter, for now. And I try, especially because this generation, it's got to be like a soundbite, and it's really hard on reels. It's got to be a minute 30, so you can come listen to what I say in a minute 30 seconds. In the future, yes, I'd like to start a podcast, start talking about things kind of more pseudo political, where you're just kind of on the line, because there's a lot of stuff. Like recently, we just had a precedent, actually right here in Houston, where there was a black couple that tried to buy in like an Asian condo. Now, this ain't a technicality because they didn't offer an offer. So they're actually allowed to discriminate against this couple because they're investors. Growing up in the tradition of real estate that I grew up in 2016, our office manager said that's a no-no. You never talk about race at all. So for that to happen, that it just blows my mind,
Bad
because
business practices.
it's not just bad business practices, Tyree. Like, dude, like it's like you go to real estate school, and the precedent is that as long as that property is marketed through an MLS or through a public forum, you cannot discriminate against anybody. There's never been a clause for investors or this, that, and the other. And forgive me if I'm gonna go on a political
No, do your
tangent.
thing. I'm interested.
It's just like, it just seems the same thing with the DEI BS that's going on. It's like my life mentor says, it's like a rubber band, right? When you stop stretching the rubber band, what happens? It collapses like this. So it just seems like one thing after another. And if we as a people don't stand up for our rights and we don't call out things, they're just gonna keep taking things away. And this is case in point. It's like, oh, they're investors. They're not really people. It's okay. So it's like, so now you can discriminate against investors. And it's like, that's just, as black people are already behind the eight ball is ready. And it's like, where do you get the break at? So that's where I guess, as my retirement plan, because I'm old in the industry. I've been in the industry for 7 years. I'm an old guy.
Gotcha.
Real estate's a young sport. So my contingency plan is to get into more of a I'm not going to run for president and governor or anything like that, but stuff like this.
It's more
I'm
like
gonna work
commentary type of stuff.
commentary. I mean, I just became elected vice president of Houston Haitians United. So
Congrats! Shout out the organization.
yeah, Houston Haitians United. Definitely, hey, if you're Haitian in Houston, come check us out. Even if you're not Haitian, we're planning some events. So whenever this comes out, we'll tag them too. But yeah,
Yeah,
just
I'll tag your socials and everything on all the clips and everything we post, so people will be able to find you.
perfect, perfect. Yeah, it's just tying, because my life mentor, he's old school. He's old school. And I did one about is gentrification racist, but more stuff like that. But I want it to be genuine. I don't want to be forcing it. Just so I'm gonna make a commentary on that part in the next couple of days.
Well, so something I would try, just because like what you're saying, I've been thinking about doing myself like as a content model for myself, just because I feel like it's easy to kind of with this, you can pretty much like have you heard of like green screen content? Like on TikTok,
No.
somebody just like talking over an article.
Oh yeah. I've done those. Yeah.
Yeah, so to me, like I feel like that's something where you could like find you 7 articles and make a 30-second video just rambling, maybe once a week, twice a week, put those out. I feel like that's like the easier kind of, so you're not like standing in front of the camera just like thinking of stuff to say. You kind of just react to the article.
Yeah, that's good. I just want the flow because that gentrification one, it just hit just really good to where it didn't get a million likes, but the effect and the DMs I got from it, I just want them to be like yeah, I mean, yeah, I could knock
Gotcha.
out 7 articles. I used to do that in 2021, 2022. Boom, boom,
Gotcha.
boom. But that's the thing where you stand out more where because no one, even we have like black realtor groups, they don't talk about this stuff. The only thing they talk about is, hey, how can we get you to buy a house? Which is great. I mean, I'm all for first time home buyer programs and things like that, but a lot of times their intentions is like, oh, so I can make more commission. It's just, something eminence, right? You want something that lasts. I mean, hey, I could use all the money. Everyone who's listening, I'd love to help you buy a house, sell a house, rent a house all day. But just something more that's gonna have a lasting effect on the community than just transactions.
Gotcha. Well, definitely anytime you have anything you want to, promote or, if you have any organization type of events or anything you want to promote, I'm definitely open to having you back on, another time if you want, or if you have any people that you recommend to come on the show, I definitely want to have them on too as well. So,
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you let me know what type of people you're looking for. I mean, one of my friends, he's actually working on the black version of Audible. It's called Ubuntu Audio.
okay.
He's in Houston as well, so I think he'd be a good guy
Yeah,
to
definitely,
interview.
man. If you could connect us, I definitely would appreciate it.
Yeah, I know he's like still putting things together, so I'll reach out to him too and be like, hey,
No,
go on this
definitely.
podcast.
Cool, that's about it, man. Okay, and then last thing, so I have another segment after this. It'll be a quick segment, just kind of, a few little questions and stuff. But to wrap up on the real estate part, have you worked with any like big people, any notable people, or interned under anybody, important or anything like that?
I've never got to close any stars. I guess for lack of a better term, flirted, right? I can't remember her name, but there was one. They would find me on social media. She had like, I guess she became a Christian. She got rid of her breast implants. I can't remember her name. She used to watch my stories. I can't remember her name for the life of me. And she
The
watched my
details you
story.
remember that.
That's the only thing I can remember. I've been asking my little sister who's like 22. It's like I need the person's name. I've had a rapper. Well, his manager reached out to me. It wasn't like a big name rapper. It was no Drake. And if I did, they probably would make me sign an NDA to where I couldn't disclose, right?
Gotcha.
But it's just a lot of stuff that just never materialized. I just watch, it's like, oh, this guy's smart, he's got his stuff. So that's a great. I like that you mentioned that. Anyone who's listening here, the money's not made in the big fish. I mean, hey, cool. You listen to this podcast, and what is it? Amy, the agent, ends up like closing Nicki Minaj on a house, and we're oh, cool, more power to you. But one thing I've learned, just a consistent, those small fishes will make you money. You get a big fish, cool, praise the Lord. If not, trust me, I've done it where, oh, I'm gonna get this big fish. Sometimes you never catch it, or by the time you catch it, you've already caught a bunch of little fish. Think about it. If you have a big net, you can put a bunch of fish in that net. You got to catch. That's all you're gonna catch. So big well, and you're done.
That's a gem, man. Definitely appreciate that. Okay, then so the